Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everybody. I'm not sure what happened there. Welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm Ted Odorico, and right alongside is, of course, LPGA professional and Legends Tour player Cindy Miller, and we are the hosts of the Women of Golf Show. And good morning and welcome, Cindy.
Good morning, Ted. How are we today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yes, I can. I can now. Wanted to welcome everybody this morning to the show, and as always, we are live Tuesday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern time here on blogtalkradio.com, and got a great show for you this morning. Let me just remind everybody very quickly, though, best way to find us, go to blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf, and that will take you to the main page, and the live broadcast from 9 to 10 will be right there at the top. But for some reason, if you can't join us live, just scroll down to the on-demand section, and you can listen to the previously recorded shows when it's convenient for you. Also available at iTunes.com. Search under podcasts. Just type in Women of Golf, and that will take you there, and you can listen through iTunes as well. If you're interested in coming on the show, if you're in the golf industry and you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to either Cindy or myself. Cindy's email is cindy@cindymillergolf.com, and mine, of course, is ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. Got a great show for you this morning, starting off here in just a few moments. Going to be joined by very special guest Tim Forbes. He's the VP of Tour Relations at TRG Golf, and he's in the sports management business for the past 20 years or so, and specializing in golf event marketing and production. And he'll be joining us here in a few minutes. And then a little bit later on the broadcast, Cindy's daughter, Kelly Miller Elisha, producer at the Golf Channel, is going to be joining us from the Players. So we're very excited to have her join us back here on the show as well. Cindy, while we got a few minutes while we wait for Tim to come on board, why don't you share with the folks a little bit about your Learn to Hit It kit?
Yes, the Learn to Hit It kit. I'm going to teach you how to hit it clean, airborne, and straight on purpose anywhere. It could be your living room, your front porch, your hotel room, or your backyard. Included in the kit is a portable golf mat with foam balls, a Golf 101 book, a coupon for 10% off any Callaway club, and a 10-module online course that you can watch on your iPad as you hit balls in your backyard. So if you're interested in purchasing it, it's $99, and you can buy it at learntohititkit.com.
Very good. And as always, Cindy, you do a great job in coming up with some very creative and innovative ways to help grow the game. And a lot of folks, out there always make excuses. Well, I don't have enough time to go to the golf course or the driving range. You've pretty much eliminated that excuse platform by coming up with this kit, and you did a great job. And it's just one of those things that there's really no excuse. And Cindy, I look at this, and it goes back to what you always say. You've said this many, many times on the show. It goes back to the reason really why you're playing golf in the first place. And I think once you answer that question, depending on what your response is, I think that you have to make some level of commitment. If you're somebody that's just going to play once or twice a year, we understand you're not going to want to invest a lot of time, money, or effort into playing. You're just out there to, have a little bit of fun once in a while. But if you're somebody that's really a little more serious about their game, wouldn't you agree, Cindy, that you have to make some level of commitment in doing so, correct?
Well, you don't get real good at this game if you don't. So you must invest time, energy, money to get better at this game, or you just don't. This is not a game that you can just pick up and be good. I mean, you can have some talent, but to really become a player, you have to invest time and practice time and learning time and all that stuff. So you're absolutely right.
I think what a lot of it is, Cindy, and I don't know if this is 100% correct. I think a lot of people are under the misconception that they've got to invest a great deal. I mean, obviously, if you want to play on the tour and that, yes, I'll backpedal a little bit. You've got to spend a lot of time and a lot of commitment, a lot of resources to get to that high caliber level. But if you're somebody, weekend warrior, as we call it, and just want to get out there maybe once or twice a week and play, you certainly don't have to be as diligent as somebody on the LPGA or PGA. But having said that, you have to have some level of commitment. And I think that the problem is with a lot of folks is they think that they've got to just, beat ball after ball after ball. And really there's a smart way to do it. You have to go in with a purpose. You got to go in with a game plan. And I think no better person can equip you for that than some of your fellow golf professionals out there. We've got the skills and the expertise that we've been trained to show you how to maximize your time and make it efficient. And I think, Cindy, this is what you try to do. I mean, people just think that they've got to go out there and spend, incredible lengthy hours out at the driving range. And really in a 20 or 30-minute session, they can get a lot accomplished if they practice smart, correct?
Well, you have to focus your attention on your intention, if you will, and which is organizing your thoughts rather than just whacking away. So, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I know obviously your time is different now, and you're not playing as much as you did before. But when you were sort of in the heat of play, how much time on average do you think, can you recall, did you spend practicing your game?
I don't even know. I can just tell you that you live, eat, sleep, breathe, and drink golf. So it's it's daily all the time. Even when you're not practicing, you're thinking about it. So all the time.
Right.
So.
Well, but as a player though, that's a little bit different than some of our amateurs out there. I mean, obviously they're not going to do that to the same extent. I mean, you wanted to, you want to play competitively. You want to, do your best out there. So obviously you have to have your mindset geared towards that. But for some of our golfers out there, as I said, that maybe just want to play a couple times a week or maybe even just once or twice a month, they don't necessarily have to eat, sleep, and breathe golf. They can do a lot of other things. And I think it's good also, Cindy, would you agree, to be active in other sports, not just all golf. I think, being active in other sports keeps you in good condition, keeps you athletic, and helps you even with your golf game. People that play tennis or baseball or other sports keep themselves physically active and in shape, and that can certainly pay dividends out in the golf course as well, right?
I agree, but I think if you're going to make golf your major sport, once you're 12 or 13, you need to make a decision, especially if it's baseball, because baseball and golf do not get along. And hockey, yes, you can play hockey, you can do crew, you can do basketball. You just can't do baseball and golf. That's not going to work.
Right. And the point I'm making is just to be active out there. But yeah, you're right. Some sports are more conducive to helping your golf game than others would be. Let me just read a little bit. I know he's not quite with us yet, but let me just read a little bit about our guest coming up this morning, Tim Forbes. As I mentioned, he's the VP Tour Relations at TRG Golf. He's worked in the sports management business for nearly 20 years, specializing in golf event marketing and production. In the early stages of his career, he was employed almost exclusively on the professional tour side, with stints on the Futures, or now Symetra Tour, the LPGA Tour, and the PGA Tour's World Golf Championships. He went on to work as general manager for golf clubs in the Nashville, Tennessee area, as well as Orlando, Florida. And in 2009, he founded Sports Walkabouts LLC to focus exclusively on creating quality competitive opportunities for avid amateurs. And in that role, he co-directs the Long Beach Golf Festival, which we'll talk about here when he joins us, the country's longest-running continuous annual series of high-level amateur tournaments. The circumstance that sparked his evolution from spectator-oriented sports work to participate-based event production were chronicled in his 2013 book, It's Game Time Somewhere. Very interesting title for a book. I want to hear a little bit more about that as well, but let's welcome, I see that he's ready. Let's welcome our very special guest this morning, Tim Forbes.
Good morning.
Good morning to you both.
Thanks for getting up so early.
Good morning, Tim.
We
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, I've been up literally minutes. It's really nothing. No, I really appreciate I appreciate the invitation.
Cindy, why don't you start us off?
I'm sorry?
No, sorry, I was just going to say, Cindy, go ahead to start us off.
So our listeners don't realize that we've had a relationship, well, not that kind of relationship, but how long have we known each other?
Oh, gosh. Well over 10 years, probably more like closer to 15 by now.
I think you're right. And Tim and I used to do a lot of events on the Symetra Tour for different companies, and we would do clinics, and then we would teach business golf, and Tim actually wrote my book that no one wants to publish. But he did a marvelous job writing this great book with lots of good stories, and then he retired or quit the Symetra Tour, the LPGA. Why don't you tell us what you did since you went to California?
Well, the desire to live in California nosed out the desire to continue to work for the tours. My wife and I love living here. And we had a deal back some years ago that the first person to get a great job in California and we would move. So we did that. I resigned from the LPGA Tour in my position, but stayed on as a kind of a consultant and did some client work with them and with you. And when I came out here, I hung out my own shingle. My company is called Sports Walkabouts LLC, and I do all kinds of different participant-based sporting events, everything from the Special Olympics World Games, where I helped manage the golf facility in 2015, to what I'm doing now, the Long Beach Golf Festival, which, Ted, as you had pointed out, is the longest continuous running event or series of events like it in the country. So I've really focused much more on giving people the opportunity to play and compete as opposed to kind of the spectator sports side of the business.
Very interesting. Tim, let me ask you something real quick. One of the interesting points that kind of caught my eye was really the first one that you sent over to us. And I'll read it exactly as you sent it. This strange, nutty business that has mystical hold on people like us. We are a little bit of an odd bunch, aren't we?
We are. This business is obviously nobody goes into this business to make a lot of money, and it is. I discovered I've done. We can talk about it if you'd like a little later on. But I've been to many different types of sporting events involving what people might call the second-tier sports, the ones that don't get a lot of attention and coverage. And what I discovered is this kind of community of sport that builds up, this really tight-knit group of people that's pretty far-flung because with the Internet, people can keep track of each other and their sport. And they live for these recreational, very competitive, but recreational opportunities where they go to compete, and also because it's a community of like-minded people about that sport. And to me, golf is the epitome of that. Golfers will find each other in a crowd and will always have something to talk about. And those of us that kind of work in the business and make it possible for that community of sport to exist, to me, that's the reward more so than kind of the big bucks that you might get working for, football or baseball or another, high-profile sport.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And it's funny, if you go into a prospective client's office, one of the first things you'll see on their desk, if they're a golfer, is a picture of their foursome, and in the background, his wife and his kids will be the next picture in line. So you know where the priorities are, and that's true in a lot of cases. Cindy, I know you've got some questions as well. Go ahead.
It isn't just golf. I mean, you take out the word golf, but golf is much more commonplace to see in that scenario that you described. But it may be biking, it may be running, it may be curling. It's if there's a sport. I've always joked because I've done a lot of work in sponsorship sales. I've always joked that the biggest service that somebody could do for everybody involved is to make C-level employees, i.e., the people that are writing the checks for sponsorships, register as to what their hobbies are, so that if you're selling a sponsorship for a golf tournament, you can skip all the people that don't like golf and go right to the golf guys. And same thing for running, for biking, and so on and so forth, because people become invested in that sport for the community and then for all the other people in that sport, and then they tend to kind of put their money where their passion is.
You're exactly right. Cindy, go ahead.
Tell us about your book, because I think that's very intriguing.
My book is Game Time Somewhere. When I got to the point where I was doing work exclusively in the spectator sports arena, I noticed that I had started to not really watch sports or follow sports, and I've always been a sports fan my whole life. And it started to concern me that I really hadn't have much interest in watching sports because I was working in sports. So I decided to get back in touch with my inner sports fan, and I signed a sponsor, and I did a one-year project where over the course of 1 year I went to 100 different sporting events involving 50 completely different sports, some sports that I had never even heard of. And about halfway through that project, which was really enjoyable, as you might think, it was as fun as it sounds. What I realized, first and foremost, is the sports that I had kind of been checking the box off just to kind of fulfill the obligation were actually the ones that I started to really enjoy and really follow, whereas the big-time sporting events that I went to held the least amount of interest to me, and I started to kind of get ingrained or attached to these community of sports and all of the synchronized swimming and synchronized skating and lawn bowling and all of these really cool sports that people just have such a passion for playing. And so I saw a book in that, and long story short, the book was published in 2013, and the biggest lesson that I took away from the book, and I think the people who read it will say, the biggest sports fans in America are those that are playing one as opposed to watching one.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. That is true. I think that, a lot of people, Tim, you're exactly right. A lot of people sit in the sidelines and certainly enjoy watching football or baseball or whatever their passion is, but you're right. The ones that truly love the sport are the ones that get out there and play it. Even regardless of their ability, they get out there and play it and enjoy it.
Right. And that's the beauty of golf, because golf with the handicapping system, you can play alongside someone who has much more ability than you, but with the handicapping system, you can have a competitive recreational event. And I think that's what people really care the most about, is to be able to compete and have fun.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And competition, everybody likes a little bit of competition. Yeah, and I think golf does that probably better than any other sport, because it has a great equalizer, as you just pointed out. The handicap system makes it so that, most of the other sports, if you've got somebody that's not very good, they're less likely to want to play. But you'll see some golfers out there that are hitting it all over the course, and they just love it so much, even though they can't play well. But with that system, they're able to go out there and at least feel like they can compete on some level, and that's fantastic. Tell us about the Long Beach Golf Festival. How did that start, and what's entailed in it?
Well, it's nobody that I could find could tell me how it started, because it started almost 100 years ago. So nobody's alive today just to describe how it actually got underway. The earliest roots that I've been able to discover is 1923. There was a Long Beach Open that was, you can't really tell whether it was professional or amateur, but Walter Hagen won it and didn't get any fanfare or anything like that. He was just there and he won. And the earliest purely amateur event took place a couple years later in 1926 when they had the Long Beach Men's City Championship, which was a pure amateur competition, and that was conducted in match play format. And that tournament has been conducted every year since then. And I think there were a couple years off during World War II, but the 91st rendition of that will take place in June here. A couple years after that, 1928, and this I got a real kick out of this, Cindy. I'm sure you will as well. When you go back to the archives and you look at the winners for the first several years of the Women's Amateur Championship, the women were known only by their married name. So Mrs. F.G. Wilson won the first Long Beach Women's City Championship in 1928. And again, that has been contested continuously until then. So all kinds of people have come through, one event or the other. Well, first of all, let me tell you, in its current state right now, it is a series of 7 events that starts off in May and runs through into August. And it kind of checks off all the boxes in terms of who gets a chance to compete. There Senior Amateur Championship, which starts next week, and we have 200 people registered for that. Then the match play tournament. Then we have a men's city championship, women's city championship, a junior championship, and then we have an amateur qualifier for what has been the capstone event, which is the Long Beach Open, and that is the largest independent mini tour event, if you will. It's a completely independent professional event. So it's not related to a mini tour. It's a standalone event which draws over 300 participants each year, professional golf professionals.
Wow.
And so, Cindy, I'm sure you can probably point out what's missing from that picture. Got men's and women's amateur, senior, junior, men's pro, and
women's professional.
So this year will be the first Long Beach Women's Open, August 1st through 3rd. And it'll be mirrored after the men's pro tournament. It's actually a Cactus Tour sanctioned event, and we're looking forward to making a little bit more history here with the Long Beach Women's Open the first time around.
Isn't that cool?
I think so.
I think that's fantastic, and I'm pretty sure you'll have no problem filling up that event with participants. I'm quite sure if it's not already done so, I'm sure you'll have no problem in filling it up.
Yeah, I think it's actually in May. I'd have to talk to Mike Brown, who runs the Cactus Tour, but it's pretty close to full already. The Women's City Championship, the amateur event, really is a college tournament, an unorganized, not unorganized, but an unaffiliated college tournament. It takes place in June, and last year we had 72 women, and I think 64 of them played Division I or Division II golf somewhere in the country, but lived in Southern California. So what we're doing for the Women's City Championship is the winner gets an automatic exemption to play as an amateur in the first Long Beach Women's Open, and the top 10 get the opportunity to register to play as amateurs. And I would imagine that most of them will jump on the chance to play in a professional tournament as an amateur, during the summer. How else? I can't think of a better way to stay sharp for your college season than to play in a couple of very, very high-profile events during the summer.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Tim, let me ask you something, because you've obviously been around golf for a long time in various aspects of it. What's the most surprising thing that you see in today's game compared to, say, 20 years ago? What sort of stands out in today's game that differs in your assessment?
Well, I'm a little biased because of all the work that I've done in women's golf, but the embrace of golf by junior girls is so much more prevalent than even 10 years ago. And I think golf at some point along the way, and maybe Cindy, you can help me out with this, became cool for young girls to play, and it just, instead of it being kind of a geeky, dorky sport that the boys played, girls really embraced it and have so much fun with it and learning it. And then with Title IX kicking in, the scholarship opportunities certainly got parents' attention because the number of women's golf teams, college golf teams, exploded towards the latter half of the 90s. And for a while there, if you were a high school golfer and you could break 85 on a regular basis, you could get a scholarship to play women's golf in college. So I think the combination of that and just, a little bit of the Tiger effect and a little of the Annika effect, I think really drew young girls into the game. And when I'm on site at one of our events, it's not unusual at all to see large groups of girls there using the practice facilities or following other groups that are competing in one of the tournaments. It's just very common. The golf course has become very gender neutral, if you will.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, what's something that you would still like to see? What changes would you like to see that maybe haven't happened yet? Is there anything that you can think of?
I think there's a fledgling movement that I think is, and I don't know the details, but I know sometime in the last couple of months, both the RNA and the USGA have decided to really take a good look at kind of not relaxing, but revising some of the rules that someone new to the game might look at and say that's kind of ridiculous, which I think is a good thing because it's a hard game to learn, and I think that the industry should do whatever it can to not only get people to try it, but once they try it, not chase them away by giving them a laundry list of things you can't do while you're just trying to get comfortable and get oriented in this game. So I think that's a good trend that we're, kind of defining golf for those that pick up the game and have a natural aptitude for it, and that feel very comfortable competing with the traditional rules of golf. That's great. I think there's a lot of opportunity to create competitive opportunities for people in golf that don't necessarily hew to the traditional rules of golf. And I think we've got a ways to go in that regard.
Yeah, I agree. That's a very good assessment. Cindy, I know you got.
So tell us what you're doing to really promote this Women's Open and the programs and things you're going to do, and what are your plans for the fall?
For the Long Beach Women's Open, first of all, Long Beach is kind of the best kept secret city-wise in golf in the country, and I don't say that specifically because I run the event, because I lived in Southern California for years and never even knew it existed until the opportunity came around for me to co-direct it. It is Golf City, USA, and it's just never really celebrated. For example, two of the original founders of the LPGA are from Long Beach, the Bauer sisters, and they both traded off winning the Women's City Amateur for several years. Laura Baugh won the Women's City Amateur the year before when she was 15 years old, the year before she went on to win the U.S. Women's Amateur. There's stories like that interspersed throughout Long Beach, both on the men's and the women's side. So for a preamble, if you will, to the Women's Long Beach Open, we're having a Celebrate Long Beach Women's Golf Day. There's 6 high school girls golf teams in the city of Long Beach, if you can believe that, all fully, competitive. And so we're going to have a pro high school tournament as opposed to a pro, a pure pro-am, and let these girls who have their eye on a collegiate career play alongside with some pros in a tournament. And then we're also going to have a clinic for rising juniors that really have shown a passion for the game, and as well as women who have been playing in Long Beach forever and just want to get together and celebrate the fact that women's golf in Long Beach has got a phenomenal history that has not really been coalesced into a full celebration until this year. So that's what we have prior to the actual tournament. In the subsequent years, a personal goal of mine is to have a pro-ams that takes place on the day after. The men's Long Beach Open ends on the final Sunday in July, and then the women's Long Beach Open takes place Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday afterward. So on that Monday, my goal is to have a pro-am in which one male professional and one female professional play alongside two amateurs. And every pro that I've talked to about that, their eyes light up, and they think that's a phenomenal idea because it highlights that kind of gender equality that's coming to the fore in golf now, and it also gives them an opportunity to get to know people that practice their craft as well that they might not otherwise be able to meet. And then for amateurs, it's just being hosted by a male and a female golfer, I think, is a really, really great experience for amateur golfers. So that's on the radar screen to pull together starting in 2018.
Wow,
that's fantastic. Yeah, and you're right. A lot of amateurs, I think, look forward to. And Cindy, I know you've played in a number of pro-ams, and I'm sure that you get some great feedback through a lot of the amateurs that get to play in that part of the event. I'm sure a lot of them have made some great comments over the years about how much they enjoy and learn from playing alongside great professionals like yourself, correct?
Absolutely. It's just a great experience.
A funny story.
Fantastic.
I tossed out the idea to a couple of the male pros from the Long Beach Open last year, just in conversation. I said, what if there was an opportunity for you to play with a female professional in this format? And all of them, I think their collective response was, would we have to pay to do that? They're so enthused about the idea.
That's good. We like that.
Maybe extra, maybe pay extra, yeah.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Well, Tim, we want to thank you for joining us this morning. I know you're early there in California, and we want to take this opportunity to thank you and appreciate the time that you've given us this morning. I know it's early, so thanks for getting up and spending a little bit of time with Cindy and I this morning.
My pleasure. It's always I always look forward to the opportunity to talk to Cindy Miller whenever I possibly can. So early, not a problem. Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks, Tim.
All right,
You're
no problem.
best.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye. All right, that was Tim Forbes, our very special guest this morning. And waiting in the wings, of course, this young lady, Cindy. So I'm going to just do a little bit of an intro here, and then you're going to welcome her on the show this morning. Of course, I'm talking about Cindy's daughter, Kelly Miller Elisha. She books the talents and produces on the Golf Channel and gets a lot of the great guests that you see on Morning Drive and Golf Central and even during some of the breaking news. She's been a two-time producer for the NBC Olympics and Jimmy Roberts, which she says she's going back for the third time, and has been at the Golf Channel for 10 years now and started back in 2007 as a personal assistant, as a freelancer, and just doing some great things on the Golf Channel. So, Cindy, why don't you welcome Kelly to the show?
Good morning, my dear. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You said it's crazy there. Do you have to not be on the air?
It is crazy. I may have to hop off. We are. There was a big announcement this morning that with FedEx and the PGA Tour that they're extending their partnership, and we have Dom Chu from CNBC here. So I'm running around crazy, but I'm good for right now.
Okay. Well, if you have to go, let us know. So tell us about that. What does that mean? I mean, because you are the talent booking producer for Morning Drive, when breaking news happens, what's the headache or the spinning of plates? Tell us about that.
Yes. So basically, I book guests and stuff for Morning Drive, Golf Central, breaking news. So when Mr. Palmer died, we had over 100 people call in talking about their memories of Mr. Palmer and stuff. So we're the main people in contact for players and guests, and so it's player relations. So, for example, this morning there was an announcement that they did on our Live From set. We're here at the Players Championship in Ponte Vedra, and they did it on our Live From set. Live From is one of our news shows, and their setup is on the back by the tee box of 17, and then Morning Drive is here on the driving range. So they did an announcement about the FedEx Cup on our Live From set for CNBC. And then once they were finished with that, Morning Drive was on the air from 7 to 9 a.m. We had Dom Chu come over here from CNBC and do an interview with one of our talent, Carl Robinson. And then he's just taping some stand-ups for CNBC that can be aired later today on various programming there. So it's just working with guests and golfers and everything to make sure everything flows smoothly. And if they have questions, they come to us, and we're kind of the go-between between producers of the show and certain areas and then the guests.
Wow.
I'm tired.
I think, yeah, I'm tired. I'm tired too, Kelly. That's you weren't kidding, Cindy, when you said spinning plates. But you have to admit, though, you're as I'm sure stressful at times, Kelly, with having to sort of last minute like that. There's a certain excitement too to kind of be in the know, and when things come up like the announcement this morning, and obviously it's something that you enjoy and have been looking forward to doing for a long time. What do you like most about your job?
I think that I like most because I was a producer, and I started as a producer, and I was a feature producer, so I know with working with talent and golfers, I know what will work well. And so I think that it's neat when I can bring that knowledge to then helping book guests and stuff. So it's still, I'm being able to be creative. Let's do something a little different. Let's do something this way versus just booking the guest and saying, okay, here you go. And it's nice because I can do my job from anywhere. So if I have an 18-month-old, if she's sick from school, or I can send emails from home. I can call and book guests from home. So that's one of the nice things that I do. But it's being creative. How can we do something different? So I help set up shoots. If there's one of our golfchannel.com writers, Rex Hoggard, was in the Marines, and so he pitched a story about going to Paris Island, which is where he went through basic training to do something for Memorial Day. So, a lot of people are busy doing stuff, so I kind of helped with him. We got a crew, and he was able to go up there the week after the Masters, and he did a piece where he went through basic training again, and we're going to air it on Memorial Day. So it's, working with different entities and stuff to make things happen, because a lot of things get stuck or somebody doesn't follow through, or, it's my job to make sure everything flows smoothly and gets done too.
Right. What about the flip side? What's the most difficult thing? I mean, obviously that's hard in itself, but what's the most challenging aspect of your job that you find that can be really tough at times?
I would say, I mean, I travel a lot, but that's still, it's actually not that much, so it's not too bad. So that's still a good part of it. I'm not sure what would be the most challenging. Maybe there's a lot of requests that we get for certain things, so we really need, we make sure that we're streamlining stuff. So I think
right.
If we have to turn somebody down on a request because we have too many requests for certain things, I think maybe that would be,
right.
That's a little challenging because I want to make sure everything works out, but sometimes it just won't.
In other words, having to say no sometimes is challenging in itself. And I could see that. Yeah, that would be. Cindy, go ahead. I know you've got some questions for Kelly.
Tell us again, because some of the listeners won't know, what is a feature producer?
A feature producer is, so if you're watching TV and you're watching any news, but like feature producers are more, if you see a package or air, something that's like 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes, or they put together a story that you'll watch. So a feature producer would go on a shoot, would conduct interviews with people, would then they set up the shoot, where you're going to shoot, they've come up with a schedule, they put together a script, then they'll sit with an editor and you edit this feature, and eventually it'll be on the air. Now, a lot of times you do work with talent, but sometimes the feature producer just does all, writes it, goes on the shoot, and then somebody just tracks it. Sometimes if it's a different story and one of the talent will work on it with you with the script, or they'll write it and then you cut it. So basically it's putting together those packages, I would say, if you're watching TV and it's a story about one of the stories, if we had a story about a golfer, or the stuff that I did for Jimmy, it's a piece on how a certain athlete, right? So it's something that you're getting to know something a little bit better, and that's basically a feature.
So a video story.
Yes, with words and music and pictures and voices. Yes, a video story.
Kelly, let me ask you a question, and I think I already know the answer, but I'm just curious. When you've put together a segment that's, let's say, going to be airing, later this week, and something happens and the wheel falls off the bus, in other words, do you have a backup plan? Do you have to put together something as a backup in case that story can't go through for whatever reason? Does that ever happen very often?
A lot of times.
So what do you do in a case like that?
If they were going to cut, so let's say the producers today, let's say we had a guest scheduled and that guest has to cancel, then, they have to fill that content, that 5-minute segment, 5 to 6 minute segment with something. So either they'll add a chat or talk, or maybe there's a feature that could air, or maybe they just re-air something. So it all just depends on the show and the producer that day, or what content it is. And, but it's sometimes definitely, if something doesn't work out, they may be scrambling in the control room to try to fill something. But a lot of times, if they'll have something on tape, they can re-air something if it aired, or they just add a talk chat, with talent and one of our analysts, and they can, come up with something. But a lot of the stuff for Morning Drive is, planned and they produced it. Now, Live From is on right now, and they'll be listening to press conferences today. Some guys will be out on the playing in a practice round, so you'll see some shots. They plan it, but it could be, hey, we just got an interview with this person, let's fit that in. So it all just depends on the show and the content kind of that they need to use.
So you have to do some last minute improvising sometimes too, if a situation presents itself.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Well, that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of times, they'll if something cancels and somebody can't come on, then sometimes it is a last minute scramble to see, oh no, can somebody call in? So if it's breaking news, like when Mr. Palmer passed, I was just at work,
right.
and it's, hey, can we get somebody else now? We need another phone, or can we get somebody else? Just trying to fill the show up, and that's more of a breaking news, and we as we go, you're just trying to fill the content.
I think
so it would be safe to say that this is not a job for the faint-hearted.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
So
go ahead,
glad that I
brought
you up. Well, I'm so glad I brought you up the way I did.
Yes.
All the craziness has given you the experience to be able to handle all this chaos. It's funny because when you said, I have a golf emergency.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
It's for real.
Like, what do you mean?
So a golf emergency, we just say it, if it's something like breaking. So let's say Tiger Woods, when he was playing, and you'd be following him, and especially with the stuff with his back, if he then withdraws, right, and you want to try to get a camera to see where if he's leaving, or, be, golf emergency, if something happens on the course, it's not really a total emergency, but it's a golf emergency. In our world, if we're covering golf, we need to, be prepared and get that. So, somebody withdraws, and mainly it's like a Tiger thing, but that's a golf emergency.
Now,
awesome.
Let me ask you on a more personal note: are you more personality-wise? Are you a little closer to your mom or your dad? Who do you
Totally my
emulate
mother.
more in your personality?
I am exactly like my mother. Everyone, even yesterday when I walked into the compound, I had a visor on and my hair and pigtails and sunglasses, and they heard me talking and they thought my mom was there. Literally.
Really?
One of the camera guys said that they thought that you were there, Mom. Yes.
Oh, cool. Who was it?
I think you should have said,
Faco.
"Oh, hi, I'm Cindy Miller."
Yeah, exactly.
Tell Faco I
Plus,
said
I look
hi.
like her.
I love him.
I will. Plus, I look like her a lot. We smile very similar.
Oh, wow. That's too
Interesting.
funny.
Tell us
So
about,
what do you have to do the
tell us
rest
about
of the
your
day?
involvement
How
with the
long are you there?
Olympics. That's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. His question's better than mine.
Well, I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
The Olympics. Tell us about your involvement with the Olympics. What you had to do for that.
Yeah. Can I ride with you? Hold on 1 second.
Oh. Yep. Yeah, she's like you, Cindy. trying to multitask, doing too many things at once. Not a problem.
Yeah,
Just for those of you tuning in, we're of course joined by Cindy's wonderful daughter Kelly, who's live at the Players Championship in Ponte Vedra, Florida, and
Okay, I'm
she's
back,
just
sorry.
chatting with one of her. Okay, she's back, and
Sorry.
anyways, Kelly, tell us a little bit about what. That's not a problem. We know you have to do that. You're on the fly, so we're grateful for whatever you can spare. Tell us a little bit about your involvement with the Olympics. What you have to do with the Olympics.
Yes. So my first trip was in Sochi, and I was the producer for Jimmy Roberts. So I cut pieces for NBC. So all the pieces aired on NBC, and they're mini features, and they're essays and stuff like that. So the first one I did, it didn't have anything to do with golf. So, and even when I just worked in Rio, I don't even think we didn't even do a piece on golf. And Jimmy works with NBC Golf here. So it's just, features and stories and things that they can talk about.
You're
so
not paying attention.
It's really cool. I'm sorry, it's crazy. So it's features and stuff that I was able to do. So it was really cool because it's so many people. It's so much bigger than what you would think. And it's really neat that, millions of people were able to see things that I was cutting and putting together. But it was really funny because in Rio, I didn't even get to go to the golf course because I was cutting and editing the whole time.
Really?
Yes.
What's cutting mean? Define cutting.
That means putting together with an editor. So if it was putting together a piece, hold on 1 second.
Now you have to be able to.
So basically, we would do interviews. Sorry, we would do interviews, and Jimmy would write a script, and then I would sit with an editor, and we would put a piece together. So we would that would be cutting. So basically, when we would be putting together the feature, is what cutting is. So just another word for putting it together.
Cool.
Very cool. Yeah, it's very evident you multitask like your mother does very well, of course. But it's something you've got to be able to do. And I know sometimes week to week, I'm not sure if she's listening to me either, so I don't feel offended in any way. But listen, Kelly, we know you're super busy. So if you need to go, you just say the word. But it sounds like obviously you have a very, very exciting job. Was this something that you really wanted to aspire to get into this, or is it just sort of by happenstance that you just fell into place?
I think that it definitely wasn't something that I wanted to. I didn't go to school for it. I didn't, it was something that I went to school. We didn't have a television program, but I liked television that I wanted to see. So I did internships, and kind of like the TV aspect of everything. And so my mom was on the big break, and when we came down for the PGA show one year, I think it was in 2004, before I graduated college in 2005, I was able to meet one of the producers of the show, and that was just a warm contact that I made. I ended up graduating. I did another internship with Golf Digest to see if I wanted to do some more marketing and stuff, and I graduated. I worked for my mom. I worked at a restaurant, and I was like, let's try to get maybe something in TV or whatever. So I applied for a job at the Golf Channel and didn't hear anything for a year and a half or so, and then randomly out of the blue I got a call saying they had a PA position open for a freelance, a production associate position. It would be freelance, and it would be for this show called Chasing the Dream, following the Canadian tour around. And if I was interested, and they definitely were still interviewing other people. I was living in Buffalo at the time, living at home. So basically I did an 15-minute interview over the phone, and 3 days later they called me and said I got the job. So it was just fell into my hands, kind of, and I moved down in 2 weeks. I moved to Florida and started the job, and that was freelance. And then by the end of the summer, I had a staff position in our news department, and just kind of worked my way up from there. So I started as a production associate in our news programming, and then became an associate producer, then a feature producer, and then I worked now I'm the talent booking producer. So it's been a journey. It wasn't something that I was, I want to be in golf television, but it's fun. I like golf, so it's always exciting.
I think it's interesting too, sweetie, that you tell them that you're really not that good at golf. I mean, you've outdriven me a couple times, and you can break 90, but you play once a year?
If that now, but I still, if I could play more, I would. But I can make a birdie, but I can also make an 8, and a lot of bogeys.
Like the rest of us, right?
Yep, exactly.
Now, obviously, you mentioned earlier in the segment about your 18-month-year-old. Obviously, that presents its own challenges, motherhood, and having to deal with it with a little one. Is it tough sometimes trying to balance that out? Because obviously, you get a lot of demands from work. Is it tough sometime, or you just sort of sling the little one on your shoulders and travels with you, or how does that work?
I wish she could travel with me. It's juggling it, and it's nice that our daycare, in case there is breaking news, is open later, but she's home and she's not running. I mean, she's running around a little bit, but the good thing about my job is I can talk on the phone. Sometimes she may be crying in the background, and people understand that, or when Mr. Palmer passed, my husband, who also works for Golf Channel, was actually producing the show that night, and I was at home. I was packing because I was going to the Ryder Cup the next day, and breaking news happens, and I actually had to bring Kingsley to work with me. And so Alex Russell, one of our guest liaison who works with me in player relations, was sitting with Kingsley in her stroller in the green room while I was doing work, and then Ben was able to get off. So I mean, sometimes it can be difficult, but we juggle it and we get it done. So it's all good.
One of the things I loved about being on the big break was all the people that work at the Golf Channel. And they are truly like a family. And that's one of the reasons I said you've got to put your resume in at this place, because they are so much fun. So tell us about all the friends you've made.
Yeah, I mean, we are like a big family, you work so closely, and especially when you travel, you get to know people a lot more, and you're with them all day, and it really is like a family, and it's really just fun. We have a good time. It's not, I mean, it's golf TV, so yes, it's serious, but we can also have fun with it too. So I couldn't work with more better people.
That's awesome.
Very, very interesting. You've obviously seen a lot of advancements in technology on the sets. I'm sure cameras change and different shots and with the video production and stuff like that. What's some of the coolest stuff that you've seen here, maybe in the last few years, that you guys are doing now that maybe they didn't do 10, 15, 20, even 20 years ago?
Well, a huge difference is the tape stock and stuff that you have to bring. I remember when I first started, we were doing on Beta ST tapes that were huge tapes, even just to bring something for a 3-day shoot. It was, my luggage would be full. One bag would just be full of tapes. So now we shoot on XD discs or even just hard drives. Yeah, our like little mini
Right.
cards that they put the video onto a hard drive, and we bring that back. You know, a lot of times for a morning drive, you know, that we have iPhones and there's FaceTime, if we want to see somebody on camera, if we have a guest. So, you know, not that people's schedules aren't always open to get to a studio or, you know, get somewhere. So the advancements that we can have FaceTime or there's Skype, but we and all these other video ways to get people to join, it opened up to us having, you know, more guests instead of just having a telephone interview. You know, you can actually see somebody on camera, and they can do it from, you know, the comfort of their own home or a hotel room if they're traveling or something.
Do you ever have the desire to get on the other sides of the camera? Do you ever have an interest in? No. All right. Well,
not at all.
That was a short answer.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, not at all.
Why?
I like behind the camera is fine for me. Because there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. I mean, it's not that I couldn't do it, but I prefer to be on the other side.
Is it a control thing?
Very good.
No, because you're in control of what you're doing on the air. Like, they have to get, you know, nuggets and stuff. Like, I don't want to have to look perfect all the time and pretty. Like, I'm, you know, here, I don't care if my makeup looks all right, or I'm, you know, they have to deal with a lot of the, you know, stuff that you wouldn't think about. There's a lot of things that goes into being on air too that a lot of people don't know. So I definitely wouldn't. I don't think so. They do a great job, and there's a lot of stuff they need to do. I like everything else behind the scenes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
we'll take that.
You've definitely got. Yeah, you found a talent that works well for you, and obviously you do it very, very well, because the Golf Channel has some great productions that go on, and we know that you're a big part of it. Kelly, we know that you have to go. You've got, and we're running out of time here anyway, so that works out perfect.
Okay.
But thank you very much for joining us,
Thank
your
you.
mom and I this morning, and we'll hope you come back in the future and share some other stories with us, maybe some breaking headline or breaking news.
Definitely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
All right, have
Bye.
a great week. All right, bye-bye. All right, that was another great guest, your daughter Kelly. What a great, you know, you can hear, Cindy, that just the enthusiasm that she has about her job. For somebody that didn't go to school, as she eloquently stated earlier, didn't go to school for that or didn't prepare for this, this opportunity has presented itself, and obviously she's just taken it and made it her own.
You know, she really has. It's funny that I said to her, how do you know how to do this? And she said, I have no idea. And I remember when she first started, she would call me crying, saying, I have no idea how I'm going to get this done for the show at 6 o'clock tonight. And so she really was, you know, trial by fire. But when she was younger, she was a cheerleader, and she was always choreographing dances and music, and so she's always liked that. And now she's doing it professionally, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very easy to tell it's a natural fit, you know, just listening to her talk and explain the different components of what her job entails. It's very evident that she's really, you know, really, I won't say mastered it, because you're always learning at any job that you do, but she's definitely much more comfortable in her surroundings than I'm sure she was when she first started. And that's, you know, some people might have just walked away and said, I can't do this and can't handle that, and she's decided to stick with it, and as I said, made it her own, and does a great job. And very exciting, too. You know, I think that would be a very exciting opportunity for anybody to be able to get into a group like that in an organization. And, you know, she'll have some lifelong friends come out of that, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And on that note, Mrs. Miller, we have to say goodbye to our audience. We want to thank everybody, of course, once again for joining us. And again, thanks to our special guests, Tim Forbes and Kelly Miller Elisha, for joining us this morning on the Women of Golf show. And it's really through their participation and guest appearances that really help to make the Women of Golf a first-class show. And, of course, my co-host with the mostest does a fantastic job each and every week as well, getting us some great guests lined up here and some of our own great talents, and appreciate her very much. And so we owe her a debt of gratitude. But thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 9 o'clock Eastern right here on the Women of Golf. Thanks, Cindy, and have a great week.
You too, Ted. Thanks. Bye-bye.